To our top story this half hour, a Christmas gift for Americans. The commander-in-chief may sign the sweeping GOP tax bill later today, according to a senior administration official. U.S. stocks finishing higher on Thursday after some big-name companies said they would spend this tax cut fueled savings on pay hikes and bonuses and even investment. Critics of the bill argue that the massive corporate tax cut from 35% down to 21% will just lead to more money in shareholder hands at the apocalyptic expense of the American worker. Here's to weigh in on how the tax bill will impact business is Securities senior analyst Stefanie Miller. Stefanie, what are the impacts? Because again, the cynics out there say, oh, these announcements from AT&T and Comcast, Wells Fargo, you name it, it's just to curry favor with the administration. It doesn't amount to anything. But what are the hardcore results that we're going to see here in the U.S. from this corporate tax overhaul?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. And it sort of doesn't matter the motivation behind them in the end. I think what matters is the fact that workers leading into the new year are going to have more money in their pockets, and whether it's to curry favor with the president or it's some genuine interest to pass along the savings, the reality is that the companies are taking these actions.
Lee?
I can't help but look at this and say, okay, NBC Comcast trying to gain favor with the president, that's to me, that's insane. And then to think, before this, the criticism was, let's look at big companies. They're greedy. They're horrible. They're not going to do the right thing. They're going to feed their CEOs bigger bonuses. And that's not what's happening. So, what story are we going to tell here?
I think that these companies are being very smart to take these actions immediately to help sort of dispel this idea that the wealthiest will just keep getting wealthier and the rest of us won't have any access to any of the savings, whether from the corporate changes or the individual changes. I think both from the company's sort of view, but also from a political view, it's important that people have more money in their pockets next year. It was a promise that Republicans made, and this absolutely helps them to realize that goal.
Mike Block, I'm just going to read from the Wall Street Journal editorial today, and this is an important reminder to everybody. Virtually all American workers not employed by the government depend on the economic health of their employers to support themselves and their families. That's why this is important.
No, it absolutely is important, and I'm not going to be cynical about Comcast. I think they're doing the right thing here. AT&T, we can make remarks that they're trying to get Time Warner done by doing this. But look, they're doing it, and it's going to help people. Let's not look that in the mouth and say that this is, and be cynical about it. That's fine. Stefanie, my question for you, though, is really, are there certain sectors that you're focused on when you talk to clients that are going to benefit more from this than others? We know analysts are sharpening their pencils, and they're raising earnings estimates. Whether you like it or not, whether you like this tax bill or not, earnings estimates, just by the simple math, are going to go higher. Are there certain places where you have clients focused?
I mean, in general, and the story that this tax cut for corporations, it's almost 15 points. And so what's really important is which companies are paying the actual U.S. highest tax rate of 35%. And one area that one industry that pays that rate tends to be the financial services industry, which of these announcements, Wells Fargo was one of the companies that came forward and said it would be realizing huge tax savings from this and would be raising the minimum wages for its employees immediately. And so I'd say financial services looks like a really big winner because their tax liability should go way, way down and pass along in some respects to their employees.
So, Stefanie, we saw a lot of these companies pass on these money in the form of a bonus, which is a good thing. But the question is, on the individual side, or even more broadly on the corporate side, how soon will people feel it? It has political implications, perception implications. How quickly do you expect any benefits gained to be accrued by individuals so they say, hey, this tax cut was good for me?
So there's sort of two things happening. One is that the 18 tax breaks that are going to take effect for individuals, we don't file our taxes until February, March, even April, a lot of us, April 15th of the year that they're due. And so that's April 15th of 2019 for those 18 tax breaks. But simultaneously, what companies and what the administration hopes to see is wage inflation. So see wages go up for folks across the country, and see companies making more hiring decisions because they have more money that they know will be in their pockets. And so it's sort of the two working together. Yes.
Stefanie, because I'm not a Pollyanna, and I see the negatives in this plan, and the one part that I think is the messiest is the pass-through tax cut, which would be for small businesses. They got a tax cut, so the top rate on the individual side used to be 39.6%. And with this 20% deduction, which there are limits on who gets that 20% deduction, it would take their top tax rate down to 29.6%. What is your take on the impact on the economy and workers and individuals of this part of the tax overhaul?
Yes, and this is again one of those companies having more money in their pockets to make investments, and one of those investments is likely to be more hiring. I think small businesses tend to be, stretched pretty thin for the most part, and it would be meaningful to them. That tax rate reduction of 10 points on average is going to allow these companies to potentially make more hires or other needed investments. I think that is going to be, it was a goal of the policy, and it is very likely to be realized over 2018, 2019, and into the future beyond that.
To wade into the weeds just a little bit, Mike, to point out, though, with this pass-through tax reduction, there are limits on who gets it. The income limit is $315,000 for married couples, and it phases out completely for some services businesses above that level. We have to wait the Treasury Department to write rules on this part of the tax reform for a year or two, and then it expires along with the individual tax cuts in 2025. Those are the issues that Congress at some point is going to have to tackle hard.
It will have to be addressed, and I'm particularly worried about that, and here's why. Small businesses are the engine of job growth in this country, and I would argue wage growth as well. It's nice to see these large companies leading the way and raising wages, giving bonuses. I like it. Here's the thing. The last NFIB Small Business Optimism Survey, surprisingly, even with markets at all-time highs, with this tax bill on the way, what happened was the percentage of companies, of respondents who said that they thought wages would be going up in the next 6 months was down sequentially. The number that said they were going to do increased capital spending was down. I'm going to be watching this survey, NFIB again, to see if this starts going up now that this bill is passed. We knew the bill was coming. It's passed now. Those numbers have to go up.
But it was overall optimism or confidence was at a record high for that.
I know, but when you dig into the guts of it, it wasn't as good.
But the bottom line is
it's got to get better. I hope it does.
It's not just tax reform that's leading to this. It's also the regulations. So small business owners are having to pay more for insurance than ever before, so they're not as likely to hire full-time employees. There's other things that are putting stranglehold on small business besides tax reform, and I think we need to look at those things.
Let's get it out of here.
But regulation, though, the deregulation environment in D.C. under President Trump is unbelievable. One new regulation, 22 regulations gone, which he touted not this past week, but last
ribbon
week.
Cutting.
Right, exactly.
Keep it up.
But also Comcast in that announcement about the $1,000 bonuses to 100,000 employees, part of that was getting rid of the net neutrality. And by the way, getting rid of it is not. People are saying we don't want the government regulating the internet. Well, that's what the net neutrality rules were to begin with, was essentially the government taking over the internet and dictating what service providers could do. So I think that, again, the backdrop for business here is just it's phenomenal.
The runway's set. Yeah. Look,
and
I am not disputing that.
Okay, we got to run. Stefanie, thank you for being here. Great to see you.
So
Take
much.
care. Coming up.